Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adu, coming to you with part 2 of my conversation with Akua Ofosuhene. She is an active and vocal plant medicine advocate and a psychedelic guide specializing in psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and ayahuasca. Advising on intentions and integration, she helps her clients get the most out of the psychedelic experience by teaching them other supportive healing modalities that further healing and growth. She has spoken at the UK's largest psychedelic conference, Breaking Convention, where she is also on the management board. Also at Oxford University, University College London, UCL, Drug Science, Psychedelic Society UK, and many other events and podcasts. She's also the founder of African Spiritual Practices events and retreats, and she has an upcoming retreat in Accra, Ghana, the inaugural ayahuasca retreat for her organization, which is happening February 16th to 22nd. Please do check out the show notes. There's still space, there's still time, so be sure to check that out. And of course, the show notes are always very rich. We're picking up the conversation with Akua telling us about how she started to enter into the profession of practicing with plant medicine.
I work with so many parents who have been through this experience or are going through this experience, including his old best friend who was groomed at the same time. And that woman had to take early retirement. She's never been able to work again. You know, from when our children were 16 and now our children are 23. Her son is in a psychiatric unit and every now and again is able to be in a halfway house. He's never been able to work. He's never come back to himself. She has an enlarged heart.
Wow.
And when I was speaking to my son, I said to him, that's not my story.
Right.
You know, that's not going to be my story because of choices that you're making. And I meet so many parents who have been absolutely devastated and broken, and not even just parents, sides of the family. Recently, I was talking to a woman who has a very similar story with her brother. Her brother's still involved in it. And she told me about how another gang came and kidnapped her 83-year-old dementia father. They kidnapped him because of her brother, and they cut him and took pictures and filmed videos to try and threaten her brother. And it's like, these are the things that family members of these people have to go through. Yeah. And people think, oh, England, you know, pretty little England, it's English people.
Right. There's a whole other side. Right. Wow.
A whole other side. But I trust my guides. I trust my ancestors. I trust the healers who are around me for whatever needs to happen, you know, will happen. And I am forever grateful for the medicine, because I think of what I was like at the start of that journey to where I am now. If I hadn't have met the medicine, I too would have had an enlarged heart. I mean, there was a stage where I had pain in both of my breasts, and I was so scared that I had breast cancer. And I remember a psychotherapist friend of mine saying, of course you have pain in your breast when you're dealing with your son out there every night and you don't know when he's going to come home. It's attacking you at the most fundamental level. And it was so interesting because I met another woman going through that, and she'd had breast cancer. For her, she said it started with this pain in her breast when her daughter would disappear. And the pain would only go when her daughter was back in the house. So it's just crazy, but I'm constantly trying to empower other parents to know there is still something you can do for you. And when you're doing it for you, it does affect their timeline as well. It does affect their karma and what they're doing as well. And we just can't give up. So that's kind of like my journey into the medicine and continuing journey into the
Right.
medicine.
Right. Because you've literally basically got a PhD in the medicine in all this time to now be able to be
It's
right, to be
ended
a
up kind of being
practitioner
like
in it.
that.
And so I want to go back to your first experience with Iboga. And because a lot of the ones that you've mentioned are not necessarily African, based in Africa. And so, in my understanding,
Mhm.
every indigenous culture has their psychedelic. They have their plant medicine that is meant for the
Yes.
healing, that is meant for this. And so
Yeah.
when you think about why Iboga, and then, take us through a little bit more about kind of the plant medicines 101, just so that our listeners kind of get an understanding of the whys and the hows of which in you use in your practice.
So for me,
Mm-hmm.
Iboga is brilliant. So actually, probably the first thing I should say is that for me, it feels like all the psychedelics, if you like, come from the same planet in a way. There is something overlapping between all the different medicines. Iboga has a feel that's very masculine, or it feels like an old man. And Iboga's from mostly Gabon, parts of Nigeria, Cameroon. The people most well known for using Iboga as part of their rituals are the Bwiti. And a lot of people who take Iboga are initiated into Bwiti. It becomes part of the practice and part of a worldview as well. When I took it, it was just on a therapeutic basis with a white woman in the UK who'd been
Okay.
initiated, but in the UK into Bwiti, but she didn't serve the medicine like she was pretending to be a Bwiti person. She served the medicine
Sure.
therapeutically in a Western kind of way. And it's the most effective thing about Iboga is that it seems to clean the brain receptors that, let's say, heroin addict, that's where the receptors that are looking for the heroin or the cocaine or the
Addiction.
cigarettes or the alcohol. Iboga actually, physically cleans it out so that your brain returns to a state of being pre the addiction when it comes to the addiction stuff. But in an African context, the Bwiti and the people of Gabon will take Iboga to also change your whole fate. So if somebody is going through a lot of bad things happening in their life, they may have lost a job, and then they lost a partner, and then they lost a sibling, and then everything's going wrong. They will go back to the village and they will want an initiation to change their whole fate and their destiny going forward. It's also used to really bind together the community and family. So, like how I came to Iboga is very often in an African sense how someone may come to Iboga. My children are not getting on, they're not doing well in their lives, and something needs to change. The person who's really feeling that will take themselves to Iboga because it's understood that when one person changes in a society, it fans out to the rest of the family and community. And I would definitely say that in our family, I can see that 100%. From me moving into psychedelics, my little brother takes psychedelics, my little sister's taking psychedelics, my big sister microdoses mushrooms because she has a lung issue. My mum, before she died, was microdosing for her back. I can see how it's really cemented us as a family. Even my big brother has microdosed a bit because he was hoping it would help him with his sinuses. And so I can see how it's really made us closer and tighter, even though we're all using it for different things, especially my older siblings. They're not tripping.
Sure.
It's only for microdosing. But then I always say to my big sister, I know when you've had a big bit of microdosing, because the next day you're talking to all your kids about what they should be doing in their lives and other things you
Sure.
want to do for the grandchildren. So I can see how it cements a family. And also through that cementing and that understanding each other, you're able to do more as a family. You're able to let go of so many little things. Like me and my big brother were hardly speaking. Like we would speak in front of my mum so she wouldn't get upset. But, you know, if I opened the door for him when he was coming to her house, I didn't greet him. He would just push past me. You know, we were really not getting on. And then the more I was using the medicines to do with my son, I realized after a while, whatever this upset that I had was gone. It was just gone. I couldn't, even when I would say the things that he'd done that had upset me, there was no longer any emotion. And I remember one time trying to say what had really upset me, and I just burst out laughing because there was no longer any emotion. It sounded ridiculous. I was like, yeah, and, you know, he cleaned out the cupboard and he threw away my shoes. And then I'm thinking, that's why you didn't speak to him? You know, it was all the emotion had gone. Once all the emotion left me, after a while, he couldn't keep it up by himself. You know, once I wasn't playing, and then now we're so close, we never had to even talk about it. We never had to discuss it. There was nothing to discuss. I wouldn't even know what to bring up to him. You know, and none of it even seems important, relevant. You pushed past me when I opened the door.
Yeah.
You know, it's, it doesn't even bear talking about when our combined years are over 100. I think we can live with these things. That's what I love in a way about the psychedelics is on a familial level. Different things just start being worked out, even between me and my little sister, who we've always been close. The things that used to bug me about her, after a while, I started to see, oh, it's amazing that one of her gifts is that it shows up a lack that I feel in myself. She's not doing anything to me. The the negative feelings I was having towards her, but actually she was just reminding me of a lack that I had in myself. And it forced me to really work on my own self-esteem around certain issues. And so there was no upsetness towards her. All there really was left is just love. And that's how it's been with the familial stuff. And it's just been so amazing to see the essences of my siblings and then question my assumptions, which my assumptions I realized when it came to family was always around things that I felt they needed to be doing to or for me. And then once I was able to start swapping those things around, it's kind of like, well, I can pick up the phone. You know, she hasn't phoned me I can pick up the phone. You know, he hasn't, I can do that. Or I can ask. You know, I don't need to be in the space of these grand stories of upsetness. So I would say for us with psychedelics in the family, I can definitely see how for the Bwiti and how they use Iboga, it now makes sense to me that it's very much a social thing in Gabon. And because now the West know about Iboga, there's more kind of tourism towards Gabon for addiction and all of that stuff. Ayahuasca definitely feels feminine. She is female. She is snake. She is nature. And she comes up for people in those forms, either as a snake, either as a vine, either as nature, trees. People see her in all these kind of different ways, but always it seems as a feminine force if they feel agenda connected with her. Mushrooms, interestingly, colloquially, we call them our little helpers because mushrooms can have a very playful kind of spirit to them. But I found the longer you work with mushrooms, the less childlike they seem, the more ancestral they seem, but definitely no gender. And I still haven't met anyone who works with mushrooms who feels a gender attached to the mushrooms at all. They just don't seem to have a gender in the way ayahuasca and iboga does. But they all seem to be able to do the same things. They all help you with addiction. They all help you with depression. They all help you with PTSD. They all help you get in touch with your ancestors. They all help you get in touch with your higher purpose, the reason why you're supposed to be here and what it is you're supposed to do in the world. All the psychedelics seem to be able to do that for people.
I like that. And so we're talking about kind of these regional different types of tools and plants. And so I guess it kind of makes me think about glocal speak. So this is where I ask you for a word, a phrase, or a saying that's a meaningful part of your local experience or you're localized in your work experience. And please share why or how you come to value it as glocal speak.
Oh, gosh. Oh, wow. Gosh, that's quite like the first thing that popped into my head is Charlie Halby.
Okay.
Because it feels very Ghanaian, but it also feels like it's something everybody knows about Ghanaians, Charlie. Just that term, Charlie. It's almost like jollof rice.
Right.
You know, it's like it's very local, but it's becoming the zeitgeist of the rest of the world who have any kind of a connection to West Africa. So, yeah, I think it's that kind of Charlie Halby thing that, and I know not everybody around the world knows the term Charlie, but it's anyone has a connection with Ghana kind of has heard that term.
Sure.
So, yeah, so I don't know if I've answered the question properly,
perfectly.
though.
You've answered it because we do hear it every day in Ghana somehow.
Yes.
But which is great,
Totally.
which is great segue into now you're in Ghana and you're now bringing this modality to Ghana. So tell us about your upcoming event, what you're expecting, all of that great stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, life with psychedelics is always, it feels like your life is some kind of book that's being written. Because, you know, I said I had Iboga. It was the first psychedelic that I had. And I've only had Iboga once because it's quite expensive in the UK. So it wasn't something I could access regularly. That's why I moved on to mushrooms. I was super interested in ayahuasca, but I just wasn't sure about going to the Amazon because I was hearing a lot of stuff about ayahuasca tourism and I just thought, I have magic mushrooms. I don't need to go and add to something that may not be good for humanity or for the people over there or even for the plant. So I'm going to stay in England and have my mushrooms, you know, and if I go to Africa, then I'll have Iboga. That was my thing. So I heard about a company growing Iboga in Ghana. So I was like, oh my God, I need to go and see that farm. So I'm talking to the lady who told me about it, this therapist friend of hers. And then she mentioned the woman that I'd had Iboga with. And I was like, did she get it from Ghana? And she was like, yes.
Wow.
She got it from Ghana from the farm. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go and see the farm my life-changing Iboga came from. And then Jill said, and guess what? They also grow the capi vine and chacruna. So you can make ayahuasca.
Wow.
I was like, shut the front door. This is crazy. I need to go and see it for myself. So I went to the farm. I met the mother bush, which was their first Iboga bush that's given birth to all the Iboga that they grow. And I was able to pour libation and give thanks. I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. You saved my life. You saved my family. It was so beautiful. Went, saw the capi vine or the ayahuasca vine, saw the chacruna leaves, picked my own chacruna leaves, and was able to brew my first ayahuasca from this land. And it just felt so perfect because
Wow.
I had not considered ayahuasca. It was just, I'll be happy with my mushrooms, you know?
Right.
It was just so, oh my God, to boil ayahuasca from the land where the iboga came from. And then once I started working with ayahuasca, then she started saying to me, you have to make sure that I am legal in Ghana. It was like a task
Mm.
I was put on.
Mm.
And I searched and searched and searched. And then on another trip, she said, get a lawyer.
Okay.
And so I started looking up and I found this Ghanaian lawyer who actually works for this international organization to do with drug reform.
Mm.
And I wrote to her because I'd been writing to the ministries. Nobody was even getting back to me, let alone giving me an answer.
Yeah.
You know, I'd written to all the top law firms in Ghana as well. Nobody got back to me. I tried when the ayahuasca said to me, find a lawyer. And I found this woman, I wrote to her, and then she wrote back and explained to me, ayahuasca is legal in Ghana because you actually have to make the ayahuasca brew illegal in a place because unless you make a plant illegal, it's legal. So DMT, which is in ayahuasca, once you synthesize DMT, that's illegal.
Sure.
But ayahuasca as a brew is just two plants and Ghana has not made it illegal. And I was just like, thank you, grandmother ayahuasca, because I'd been told by the medicine years ago that I would work with all the psychedelics, but I just never did anything about it because I couldn't see myself moving to Peru or Costa Rica. You know, it was just, well, okay, you know, however it happens, it happens. And so that's why we are now doing our first retreat in Ghana with ayahuasca grown in Ghana, brewed by myself. I just finished brewing all the ayahuasca we're going to be using the other day. So I'm very, very excited by that.
Okay.
The retreat is 16th of February to the 22nd of February, 7 days by the sea in Kokrobiti. And our website is www.akuao.com and everything. Yeah, is on there.
And that'll be in the show notes so everyone can find out and find
the
out.
telephone numbers are there so people can actually ring me personally and find out anything else that they want to find out as well. And we do have a couple of sponsored spots as well. Somebody else has kindly donated some money and then I've matched that so that we can have two people who otherwise couldn't afford to come to be able to come on the retreat as well.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's wonderful.
yeah, we're super, super excited to be able to do this with ayahuasca grown in Ghana.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it's so interesting. Before we got on today, I was listening to a podcast and it's Trevor Noah, What Now? And he has this one, sometimes he has these If I Rule the World episodes. And in this one, Josh Johnson, he and then the other co-host on those particular ones, he said, if I rule the world, he proposed it, if I rule the world, everyone would be required between the ages of 22 and 55 to have a psychedelic experience. And I said, oh my gosh, it's so interesting that I'm listening to this before this conversation. And so I put that to you because, they gave various different, arguments about it. Trevor was, of course, yes. Let's even just he was saying, yes, let's go to Oregon so you can have your first experience because he's never had a psychedelic experience. So, the way you've described how it's helped your family and being in the business of doing this and modality. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because it seems part of being human and being on the planet at this time is this polarity. We are living in a reality of left and right, up and down, in, out, black, white. So, and everybody breathes air. And so in a way, if everybody even though we all breathe air, we all need food, we all need sustenance, we all are in some kind of a community, there is still division.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in the beginning, for many years, and I may only be altering my opinion a bit right this minute we're speaking, I also thought everyone needs to do psychedelics because if everyone does psychedelics, then the world will change. I don't disbelieve that. But I'm also less jumping up and down about it because I think it's a case of everyone needs to do the work. And so come to psychedelics, don't come to psychedelics. It would be great if more of us would do the internal work. I think just even the knowledge of the work is internal, and there can be also external work. And it's great that there are people out there who are protesting and all of that kind of stuff. It's great. But while we're in a reality and at a time where so much emphasis is on outside change of things, I don't think the world will really change. And I think that's also why so much emphasis is on, political change and all this stuff, because the forces that hold up the reality as we have it know that that's not how it changes. So, and I'm arguing against myself now because I'm always going back to everyone should do psychedelics. But I suppose I'm saying it will be great if more and more people are led to doing internal work, whatever that modality will be for people. Meditation, yoga, dancing, laughing, tapping, any modality is good to start on the journey of that self introspection and wanting to change. And then hopefully in that it will lead to psychedelics. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And so I ask this question always, which is about a mindset hack. And so it's what you do to hack your mindset. So I think we're kind of in this whole conversation is about mindset hacking. Are there any things, practices, or anything specifically that you do to hack into your mindset?
So I tap and I do faster EFT and it's a guy called Robert E. Smith. He's an American guy from Texas. Please do not let the accent put you off. He speaks so much sense, but I know the accent can be jarring to some of us. And it's just great because it means for me, if I wake up in the morning and there's some kind of a funk, I will not leave my bed until it's tapped out. And I will I release and let it go. I let go of all the worry. I let go of thinking I need more money. I let it all go. And I will keep doing that and testing the temperature until I get down to at least a 2. And then I'll leave my bed. That's my biggest one. And then the other one is another American, Byron Katie. She has a system called The Work, the 4 questions. And I love to use that when I feel like I could be jumping to an assumption about somebody or something or about situation. And since I've learned more about ADHD, which was something I was always, we've all got ADHD, walk away type of thing. Now I've learned more about ADHD and I realized, oh, that's what my dad had. Shit, that's what I have. Shit, that's what my son has. And I realized, okay, this ADHD thing isn't a fad. And I understand why Byron Katie's The Work has been so good for me because it's helped me question my assumptions. Oh, they did this. That means they don't like me. And it's been brilliant because Byron Katie's thing, the first question is it true? And you have to go inside and answer. And the second one is, can you know that it's absolutely true? And very often you can't. And then the next one is, and how does it feel when you believe it to be true? And that's where, for me, the truth always is. And it's really helped me with assumptions. And now I've learned about ADHD. I understand, oh, okay. So my brain can be overly sensitive to things that I thought was a criticism. And then the person's looking at you like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I didn't say that, and then it's like, am I crazy? And the negative self-talk. So yeah, those two, tapping, Byron Katie, the work. Oh, thank the universe for these things. Yeah, they're my hacks.
Okay. Right. Good, good, good. Those will be in the show notes as well. And so now just thinking more about the business side of, you now this is how you make a living. How have you been able to structure that? Finding clients, bringing people, because it's something that is, again, it's an alternative health practice. People have their ideas about it, even as you're speaking about, speaking to higher selves and mediums and all those things, it's not necessarily very mainstream. I mean, many indigenous cultures understand that, but you're in a space that is a mindset hacking space. So tell us about how you've kind of structured it and come to being a business practitioner.
So it's been interesting because in the UK, I was obviously part of the underground, but also being vocal and speaking on podcasts and speaking at conferences as a psychedelic guide. And so always treading this balance of understanding that in the UK, they're unlikely to arrest you for serving plant medicine because we're also working towards changing the law. So I had that on my side, and I've also had the medicine on my side. But of course, it's meant I haven't been able to advertise freely. Whereas in Ghana, I'm able to advertise freely. I'm able to be fully open. And so my income streams are the retreats, also one-to-one clients. And I've been kind of struggling with doing group work, which is how they really tend to do it in South America. And I had a really interesting conversation with my brother. My brother's a healer, and he's always so good at saying like the right sentence that changes everything for me. And so we were talking about it, and I was saying, and I did some group work, and he was there, and another healer friend was there, and it was brilliant. The people on the WhatsApp are still talking about what they received. But I was talking to my brother, and he was saying, sometimes instead of questioning whether what you're doing or what you want to do is right or wrong, maybe you should question your mind about what it is that's maybe stopping you from your brain from doing this. Because he was like, because in South America, where this medicine comes from, everybody is doing group work. So do you think everybody's wrong to be doing group work? Or what's maybe hindering you for stepping more into the group work? What are you frightened of? What is the blocking you? And it was really interesting. And I started really, I've really sat with that. Like, what is the block in me? Because one of the big things for me with dealing with the ADHD is really understanding how, for me, there was three things that were locked together: timekeeping, addiction to food, and money disappearing. Oh my God, I've got no money left, as if it wasn't me spending it. And the medicines have been, it was always a mystery. How come the money left my bank account? But the medicines have been really helping me in this dysregulation in these three areas. And I realized, oh my God, yeah, I was right. Because if I do group work, then I am going to be financially always much better off. And so I realized, I was right. This was a mindset thing, not a medicine thing. So for me now, I've structured in doing group work as well. It means that really, I think probably for the first time in maybe 20 years, when my business was really, really good, I'm really going to be in that position again of actually being able to have more people who can take medicine for much, 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 much less money, which is something that I took to ayahuasca, because when I first started cooking it, the vine and the chacruna leaves in Ghana is really expensive. They charge 3 times what the people pay for in South America. And I still was like, I want to use Ghanaian ayahuasca. I'm not going to order it from South America, even though it would be cheaper.
Right.
But the downside was then it was going to be completely out of the price range of ordinary Ghanaian. So I
Accessible.
took it
Yeah.
to the medicine. I took
Yeah.
medicine, and my intention was, how do I make ayahuasca cheap enough so that Ghanaians can also take it? And she answered, I've been getting training from the medicine on how to cook it so I can have more. And the last one that I cooked, I've ended up with 3 times the amount of medicine that I had before. And I was talking to a guy recently online, and he had an old advert of mine. So he wrote to me saying, look, I can't afford this, but I really, really want ayahuasca. And it felt so good and he was like, look, I can afford to pay 1,000 cities. And it felt so good to say to him, actually, I'm going to be doing some group work, and you can come and take ayahuasca for 1,000 cities. And it felt so good. It felt so good. Because before I just couldn't. It financially, it just impossible. So for me now, I can see, okay, this is really going to work. And I'm also now being very transparent with people. I have a cost if you're coming from abroad, how much you pay. I have a different price for if you're from abroad, but you live in Ghana, but you know you're earning Western money. I have that band. And then I have indigenous Ghanaians who earn Ghana wages band. And it's all there for you to see. And I've had a few people say, I don't think it's fair because I've been in Ghana for 5 years. And I'm like, you are not earning 1,000 cedis a month. So it's up to you, you know. This is the reality. You're probably earning $1,000 a month, even though you're living in Ghana. And so come on, you know, let's not. So I have 3 price bands, and it's been interesting. Some people have argued a bit. Most people are reasonably okay about it. And then some people have paid forward. They've paid more and said, how many more Ghanaians can you work with? And so there's going to be a time where I'm going to be able to work with Ghanaians for 500 cities and 250 cities while working with people coming from the UK who would be working with the equivalent of 4,000 cities. And I'm really, really happy to be entering more into the space where all these different economies can work together for medicine, you know, in taking medicine.
Nice. And I like that you said that you're being transparent about it because, you know, being in Ghana, we know that there's those different prices. Many service providers have those different prices. So that you're transparent about it. And so people can actually understand that they're not being gypped. It's like, this is what, you know, and I want to say democratizing, but equalizing opportunity and access means. So wonderful. This has been such a great conversation. I'm so happy. Another another piece of information. I did a writer's retreat over the summer, and one of the facilitators has just finished a book about Blacks and psychedelics, psychedelic healing for Black people. It's Dr. Nick Powers.
Oh, I don't know him.
And well, I'll put that in the show notes because his book is coming out and he'll be on the podcast.
Fantastic.
I'm
going to be listening to that. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And the name of the book is Black Psychedelic Revolution.
Wow.
Nicholas Powers. So that's going to be something new. So that'll be in the show notes. But I'm excited about these conversations. I've spoken to another woman who's she's been on the podcast. I'll have a link to that episode as well about psychedelic therapies and things like that. I think it's definitely something that people of color, given the traumas that we have, you know, because a lot of the genesis of your starting is because of, you initially said, I don't want to raise my Black son in the UK. And this is what happens, you know, and it's because of that trauma of the weight of what it is. So we've talked about who you are in business. We kind of want to get a sense of who you are when you're not working or healing. And so are you a reader, a watcher, or a listener? And what are some of your favorite reads, watches,
I'm a
or
reader
listens?
through listening nowadays, Audible. I
Mm-hmm.
love Audible,
Mm-hmm.
and I know if I get distracted, I listen
Yeah.
to a book maybe 4 times before I'm ready to move on. So,
Sure.
and then if it's
Sure.
kind of viewing wise, I like watching crap. I
Mm-hmm.
like watching Housewives of Almost Anywhere. I watch all of them. I think the only Housewives
Uh-huh.
I never really got into was Housewives of New Jersey. But Housewives of Salt Lake City, Beverly Hills,
Okay.
all of them, all of them, all of them. And I think it's because most of the books I read about psychedelics or about science, it's so much my world that when my downtime is
Yeah.
something that's got nothing to do with real life for me, I don't know anybody who spends as much fighting as these women.
Sure.
I don't know people who wear designer stuff. So that's my downtime. And then also I've been getting into plants
Yeah.
and herbs a lot over the years. But now I'm gonna start
Uh-huh.
growing some different things, foods and medicines. I'm even going to start
Mm.
growing the cappy vine and the chacruna
Mhm.
leaves for ayahuasca as well. And that's what I'm
Mm.
super excited
Nice.
about. And I've been learning all about soils and mixing soils and stuff. And where I am now, we have
Yeah.
a garden out here. And I suppose is going to be my first experimental place doing my own garden. The last time I really, really had a garden was when I was about 7 years old in Ghana, and I had a garden where I grew all my own food. So nearly 50 years later,
Oh, wow.
I get to do it again. Yeah.
Get your
And of
hands back
course,
in the
traveling.
soil.
And
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
traveling. I love
Okay. That's
traveling.
exciting.
I love
Yeah.
traveling up and down Ghana. Like when I say to people, no, I don't mind coming to see you in Techiman. No, I don't mind coming to see you in Koforidua. I really don't mind. I love traveling, however far. I just, there's something really special about being on the move and seeing the change of landscape. I absolutely love it. So
Yeah.
those are my passions. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. So we talked about the upcoming retreat, and is there anything else new and next for you, Akua?
So the next thing is doing the group stuff, which I'm very,
Okay.
very excited about, that Yao's helped to open my mind to that.
Yes.
So we'll be doing like a monthly ayahuasca
Mm.
group ceremonies in Accra, Kumasi, Techimai, but they're not all going to be monthly. So some places
Sure. Sure.
might
Sure. Sure.
be
Sure.
once every 2 or 3 months, and Cape Coast as well. So for the
Okay.
rest of 2025, I'm going to be mostly in Ghana, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got another retreat in September the 1st to the 7th. And I'm looking also to, I'm a member of a herbal medicine association. So I'm
Mm.
really looking to be sharing the medicine more, finding out more
Mm.
about
With other
the other
practitioners.
visionary plants that we have in Ghana. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping that at least in a year's time, there's going to be more people who also want to work with
With the plants.
ayahuasca as
Yeah.
well. And so it
Nice.
really spreads. I'm a believer in the ayahuasca manifesto. If anybody's interested in knowing more about ayahuasca, it's out there. It's free. It's called the Ayahuasca Manifesto. It's a
Uh-huh.
channeled work that's supposed to be what ayahuasca wants on the planet at this
Mm.
moment. And
Mm.
as soon as I listened to it, it was everything I'd already felt through working with the
Mm.
medicine, which is that ayahuasca is here to be to be a vessel for humanity and animals to use, but to help us remember how connected we are. So I want
Mm.
to help in that. I don't want to be the only ayahuasca provider in Ghana at all.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
lots of us to be working with ayahuasca all over the country and beyond and growing it. I want everyone to be
Yeah.
growing their own I once said that's how
Sure.
something becomes the culture, not by
Very true.
gatekeeping,
Right.
but
Right.
actually by it
Yeah.
being by the roadside. So you can cut some cappy vine and pick
Right.
some leaves and you're using
Yeah.
it for your family. That's how things become part of
Mm-hmm.
the culture.
Mm-hmm. 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 I love it. I love it. Sounds like those are great last words. But do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'm just so happy. Thank you. I love these occasions because it gets my mind going and it's really, really
Yeah.
helpful and wonderful for me as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, right.
And I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to listening to your back catalogue and your future guests as well. So thank you, thank you, thank
Wonderful.
you. And I look forward to seeing you in Ghana.
Yes, I'll be there soon.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Wonderful. All right, local citizens, this has been another episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays with new episodes at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe, leave us a review. We love to hear from our audience. Please give comments. It just helps others find good content on the internet. And until next time, bye for now.